8:30, and on a nice sunshiny day in Topeka, we are going to call the Senate Public Health and Welfare Committee to order. Unfortunately, because the weather is so nice outside, that we do have a few people that are either not going to make it in or are going to be late. So if you can count, and someone double count, I can only count 4 senators on the committee, and we have to have 5. So we do not have a quorum yet. So we are going to probably just discuss some items and then wait for people to start showing up. So my plan was for today was to work some bills. There's one bill that we're not going to be able to work that I was wanting to work. That's Senate Bill 453. I believe is that the correct number, Jenna? 453. We are still waiting on some language for an amendment, so we have to push that off. We will work that Monday. I don't see it taking a long time, so we do have other things Monday, so hopefully we can still get that in on Monday. But that is something we're going to look at on Monday. Senate Bill 373, that is the stem cell research. Senate Bill 441 is the transparency for biological laboratories. 440 is the occupational therapist, and then 407, which is the CHIP bill that we heard, I think it was yesterday. So not a whole lot we can do right now, just except talk about that. So does anybody have any interesting snow stories or anything like that? Anybody build a snowman? Can they have pictures of their snowman? Oh, no. So with that, if you didn't pick that up, we are kind of at ease until we get a quorum, so. So we will go ahead and proceed. Jenna, can you give us a quick update, overview on Senate Bill 373, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 373 makes appropriations to the Kansas Medical Center for the Midwest Stem Cell Therapy Center for 2022 in the amount of $500,000 to conduct COVID-19 stem cell therapy trials.
Committee, do we have any questions for Jenna about the Bill 373? Okay, I do know we have at least one amendment. This one was actually Senator Thompson's. He wasn't going to be here, so he asked me to present it for him. So we'll wait and get that handed out. Yes, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jenna Moyer, Office of Revisor Statutes. This would add a new section to the bill that would allow the appropriated $500,000 to be used in either fiscal year 2022 or fiscal year 2023. And I had an appropriations revisor draw it up so that we know that it's all correct.
All right. Do we have any questions on the, I'll make a motion that we adopt this amendment. Do we have a second? A second by Senator Erickson. Do we have any discussion on this amendment before we take it to a vote? Not seeing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. That amendment is adopted. We are now back on the bill. Senate Bill 373. Do we have any other amendments? Okay. No more amendments. What is the will of the committee? Senator Gossage.
Mr. Chair, I move that we pass out Senate Bill 373 as amended, favorable for passage.
We have a motion on the floor by Senator Gossage to pass out Senate Bill 373 as amended, favorably for passage. Do we have a second? Senator Erickson seconds that. Do we have any discussion on this motion? Senator Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just remind that this is, I was somewhat concerned that we had a neutral testimony from the director saying, one, there is no approval from the Food and Drug Administration, and that secondly, this is specific to COVID-19 and those cases are decreasing, whether they would have enough patients to enroll. This Midwest Stem Cell Therapy Center does good work, but I don't see it's in the purview of this committee to be making appropriations specific for a specific item that does not even have a trial study in place. So I'm voicing that concern.
Any further discussion on this? And just as a counter, I would feel I am not doing Senator Thompson justice on his amendment or his bill if I did not try to at least defend it. So here is my best effort, Senator Thompson, to defend it for you. If I remember correctly from the hearing, that was just part of the process for the FDA approval, that you have one step and you have to go in steps. And then the second thing I guess I would ask or remind everyone, just because COVID numbers are going down, doesn't mean they're not going to go back up. So Okay. Senator Holscher?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. Yeah, my concern is that it would seem prudent to hear from the neutral party in light of this change to see what their thoughts on it, because obviously that's a pretty important element to this bill.
Thank you, Senator Holscher. And if I remember correctly, the neutral was the director of the MSTC. So I don't believe the funding issue or the date was anything that he was neutral on. Senator Erickson, do you have a question? Okay, Senator O'Shea, did you raise your hand?
I did.
Okay, Senator Gossage is the one that raised their hand, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. From my understanding, when I read and reread the information on, from the neutral party, my understanding is that in order for them to get the FDA approval, they need to show that the funds are there. No funds would be allocated until they can actually do the research. And so I think this research is so imperative, and it's not just necessarily the beginning of COVID, but people who have ongoing issues due to COVID. I think that this is crucial for them to begin to do this. I just saw a study that came out, I think it was yesterday or the day before, about what they're doing with AIDS, with some of the research using the umbilical cord. And I think that all of this is going to be very important, especially the families whose family members are suffering from ongoing symptoms and ongoing conditions due to COVID.
Senator Petty.
Yes, I would agree that COVID, unlike AIDS, which has been around we've been doing research on for 25 years, I would agree that COVID is going to be around in hopefully, as we all hope, in a much less number of people being affected. But the letter from the director does not tie U.S. Food and Drug Administration approval to any kind of funding. They can get the fund. They are if they're actually working on that project, they would be working towards FDA approval. It doesn't appear that they're actually even working on that at this moment. So the FDA approval is not tied to funding.
Do we have Senator Erickson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my recollection of the testimony from the doctors who are involved in this work is that we have an opportunity here to be on the cutting edge of leading not only the state or nation, but the world in this type of research that could lead to groundbreaking ways of using the therapies that they're working on to treat a variety, not just COVID-19, which is very important, but a lot of diseases and ailments that have plagued people for decades. And so I was very excited to hear about this. I was also reassured that this is not using embryonic cells. That was reassuring to me. And so I think this is a phenomenal opportunity for us to make some headway in those areas. So that's why I support it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator O'Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had to pull up again the KU Medical Center. It is a little odd to me that they provided neutral testimony and didn't say, you know, we were thrilled to have extra funding and but they, you know, it sounds like they were okay if the dates changed and if they could get enough people. It is just a little odd to me, but I do intend to vote for it. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this motion before we take it to a vote? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of passing out Senate Bill number 373 as amended favorably for passage, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Okay. All right, committee, I would now like to turn our attention to Senate Bill 441. Jenna, can you give us a refresher on what Senate Bill 441 is, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 441 is a bill that we heard yesterday that would enact the Biological Laboratory Accident Transparency Act, and it would require public reporting of certain accidents and near-miss accidents at high-risk labs that deal with human pathogens or infectious diseases.
Thank you for that explanation. And refresher committee, do we have any questions for Jenna over the bill? Okay, seeing none. Do we have any amendments for Senate Bill 441? Okay. Don't believe we have any, so we will now move to what is the will of the committee on Senate Bill 441? Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass Senate Bill 441 favorably pass it favorably. There we go.
Have a motion on the floor by Senator Erickson, a second by Senator Gossage to pass out Senate Bill 441 favorably for passage. Any discussion on this motion before we take it to a vote? Senator Petty.
Sorry. I would just say that I find this legislation very concerning. I mean, it seems to be directed specifically towards the lab at K-State, which has, I mean, there's tremendous oversight over that lab already. It took us, I think, 10 years to get it. And I feel that this is total overreach and not really being directed for the needs of our state. So that's my feeling.
Okay. Senator O'Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It does concern me that K-State had so many concerns, and their written testimony was great. I don't recall them being here in person. I wish I could understand a little bit more about their concerns and how this would affect their operations. Thank you.
I guess the only thing I would add to that is you can have all the oversight in the world, but the transparency part and for the general public to have knowledge when there is a mishap, an accident, a spillage, a leakage, or something like that is imperative that the general population understands what's going on. Whether the origins are from a bat or from the Wuhan laboratory, I think that's a good example of why we need transparency in biological laboratories. Senator Petty.
I'll just I would look back at their testimony again. It's increasing the regulatory burden. It's unclear and inconsistent definitions, which I would totally agree with. It lacks of oversight, reporting clarity or enforcement, duplication of efforts. It says there have been multiple complementary and sometimes overlapping efforts to report accidents and near-miss accidents and incidents at high containment laboratories. K-State is currently required to report a variety of different items to federal regulators, including the Federal Select Agent Program, FSAP, and the NIH, including the Kansas Department of Agriculture and the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and our own internal oversight bodies, including the Institute of Biosafety Committee and the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. In addition, interested public parties could obtain data on their theft, loss, or release from public reports, and FSAP has clear guidance and regulatory authority to collect this data. So, and yet in this bill, the sections 3A, 4 explicitly state reporting made under this section shall not replace or exclude any other reporting required for public health or any other legal purpose. So this multiple layers of oversight that are already in place with our lab at K-State seems to be, I mean, we're not talking about transparency anymore. We're just talking about overburdened regulations. So I would definitely disagree with the whole thing of transparency. Also, increasing risk on noncompliance and nonconformity, decreasing the public trust. I think that is a prime example of this bill to act like there are issues where we have, in order to even have this lab, we had to have so many things in place for safety reasons. So that's another reason why I find this bill very troublesome.
The only follow-up I would give is those are all government agencies that they're reporting to. Overburdened regulations when it comes to transparency for the common citizen in Kansas. I don't think, I think that's just a buzzword to say we don't want transparency. And I am for the bill. And I believe that no matter what type of regulations you have, and you mentioned that the public, they said the distrust of the public on facilities like that, transparency won't cause that. It's already there. That's why the need for this bill for transparency. Any further discussion? Senator Holscher?
Yeah, I just got a question. I probably need a reminder. Isn't this the bill where the only supporter was from Israel? All right. I think I got you.
Senator Holscher, I'm sorry, I was doing blind maintenance, so people didn't get blinded in here, so.
Oh, okay. I
the,
wondered where everybody went. Everybody disappeared.
We weren't ignoring you, I promise. To clarify, he was in Israel at the time. He was not from Israel. So.
Okay. And then related to that, who brought forward this bill? And I'm sorry, I just can't remember. I don't have all my notes with me. All right, you disappeared again.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I had to look it up on the website. There is a handy feature. If you go onto the bill page website, it will give you the sponsor. And then if it was requested for information by, which is something that our office does, this was requested by Mitch D. Priest.
Okay, thank you.
And for those of you listening in, thinking maybe this was brought from outside, this is something that I discussed with Mitch and his group before the session, and I felt important considering what happened in Wuhan. And I know I had received a lot of concerns about the laboratory at K-State, about the transparency, and if they would know if something like that would happen here. So although they brought this bill, I did support it and worked with them, so. And I live in Kansas.
Mr. Chair, I'm in support of this bill, and I think because of the fact that I've received multiple contacts and emails, I don't know about the rest of you, from folks who are concerned about this and have been, that yes, they may report to other government agencies, but if there were an accident, would the people who live near there, would anybody be notified? Would the public be notified of an accident? And I don't think that's too much to ask when they were talking about, well, we already do all this reporting. I understand that, but, you know, how many accidents happen? And could that be reported? Thank you.
Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, I don't recall, and I'm looking, the gentleman who testified from the KDHE lab, but was reassured in my questioning about, you know, issues of theft and how prevalent those are, that he pretty much reassured that we run a tight ship. This is not going to be a heavy burden, and is happy to provide that transparency. So I appreciate that, and I support this bill.
Any further discussion on this bill before we take it to a vote? Okay, just as a quick reminder, we are on a motion to pass out Senate Bill 441 favorably for passage. Being no more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it. Would you like to have your Vote recorded? Yes. Okay, so noted. Okay.
Stay with me,
Committee,
Mr. Chairman, please.
Senator Holscher, I apologize, but because you are virtual,
That's right, never
voting,
mind.
but, okay. So, okay, committee, we will now turn our attention to Senate Bill 440. Jenna, would you give us a brief update or explanation of the refresher on this bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jenna Moyer, Office of Revisor of Statutes. Senate Bill 440 would establish limited circumstances where an occupational therapist could treat a patient without a referral from a physician, and it would also require those occupational therapists to maintain professional liability insurance.
Do we have any amendments on this bill? Okay. Okay, there are no amendments. Senator Petty?
I'll make a motion to pass this bill out favorably for passage.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Senator Petty to pass out Senate Bill 440 favorably for passage. A second by Senator O'Shea. Do we have any discussion on this motion before we take it to a vote? Okay, not seeing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. That bill is moving to the floor. Senate Bill 407. Jenna, would you like to give us a refresher on what Senate Bill 407 is?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 407 amends the Children's Health Insurance Program from the state, and it would strike the current requirement of the federal income poverty guidelines being tied to 2008, so that it would go back to just the present year, so 2022 going forward. And it would also strike the the 8-month waiting period for families who have an income between that 200 and 250% federal poverty level.
Do we have any questions for Jenna on the bill? Okay, not seeing any. I do know we have an amendment, at least one. Senator Petty?
Yes, so Jenna, if you pass it out.
And I apologize, a little bit of it got cut off in the copier, but it would just restore the language in paragraph 8.
Any discussion on this amendment? Senator Petty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it seemed to be yesterday when we had the hearing on this bill that there was over concern about that Section 8 that had been removed and the waiting period for families. Although I would agree that this is an important part to be struck from the bill, I do understand the concern of, or I listened to the concern of other members, and so this is putting that section back in. So the bill just deals with making sure that we are not the only state in the country that has a year certain for federal poverty level, and a reminder that there is nowhere else in statute in Kansas where we have a year certain for federal poverty level. It's always tied to the current year. So this is removing the 2008.
Do we have a motion on this amendment?
I'll make a motion to pass Senate Bill 407 as amended favorably for passage.
We're still on the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
on the
I would
amendment.
make a motion to accept the amendment, sorry.
A second by Senator Gossage. Any discussion on this motion before we take it to a vote? Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to thank Senator Petty for bringing this amendment. My concern certainly wasn't with updating the date, but was with Section 8, so I appreciate the amendment, Senator.
Any further discussion? Senator Gossage.
Yes, I would just agree that we needed to, whenever you say federal poverty level, it has always been the assumption it's the current federal poverty level. And I think just when this was written, it just had that in there. And I'm glad that we are correcting that oversight. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Petty Amendment, say aye. Those opposed, no. That amendment is adopted. We are now back on the bill. Senator O'Shea.
I move that we, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass Senate Bill 407 as amended favorably for the passage.
Have a motion on the floor by Senator O'Shea, a second by Senator Petty to pass out Senate Bill 407 as amended favorably for passage. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. That motion is carried. That's going to the floor. Committee, out of the bills that we passed out today, and thank you for being here today and showing up in this weather that we're having. I know it was a struggle for some of you, and we appreciate it. So we did get a quorum, so we were able to get some work done. If there are any of these bills, and I know Senator Thompson will probably want to carry 373. Does anybody want to carry any of the other bills that we discussed? If you do, just let me know, and we will put your name on the bill as the carrier. And with that, do we have anything further to come before the committee? Seeing nothing, we are adjourned. Everybody have safe travels and a great weekend. We'll see you Monday morning at 8:30.